welcome to this January 17, 2013 school board meeting. I'd like to call the meeting to order, and we'll begin with a Pledge of Allegiance. Emma, do you mind leading us?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I'll continue by reading our mission statement. The Newmarket School District is committed to the highest standards of quality education. We ensure a safe and successful learning community. We embrace diversity and respond to the social, emotional, intellectual, and physical needs of every child. We strive to work with a broader community to ensure that students develop lifelong skills, enabling them to be contributing and productive members of society. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for coming tonight. It's great to, before we go into recognitions, it's great to do the Pledge of Allegiance and hear younger voices in the room.
That's good. We all know it.
Which I guess is my transition to the recognitions piece.
Right, let's do that.
Okay.
We do recognitions to start every one of our board members or board meetings, or almost every one of them. And one of the themes that I said at the beginning of the year we'd carry forward throughout the year is recognizing student leadership, and we've done that at different points. And this time we're recognizing the student leaders in the elementary school. We have the officers of the student council here. We have their advisor and fifth grade teacher here, Doug Webb, and I'm going to ask him to come up and introduce the officers, if you would.
I'm Doug Webb. I'm the fifth grade. Am I speaking this way?
Yes, speaking.
Okay. Fifth grade teacher, student council advisor, and I feel really fortunate to get to work with the student council. It's a really dedicated, amazing group of kids. We have 20 students, 10 from fourth grade, 10 from fifth, and we meet once a week. And they give up their recess and lunch period to meet, so it's a big sacrifice, and they meet to find ways to make our school a better place. And 3 of them are here this evening. We have our president, Katie Day.
Congratulations, and thank you for coming.
I'm sorry. We also have our vice president, Devishi Jha.
Hi, Devishi. Congratulations. Thank you for coming.
And also our treasurer, Dylan Mitchell. And I think Katie's going to talk a little bit more about what we do. So.
She is. It might be a little easier if you come up to my seat, though. How's that? All right? Come on up.
Yeah.
Student Council is a group of 4th and 5th graders elected by their peers. We meet once a week for a half an hour, and we discuss ideas to make our school a better place. Recently, we collected donations for the Chamber Children's Fund, which is an organization that gets jackets and blankets for children who need them. Now we collected $482. We also helped load boxes from the canned food drive onto a truck that brought it to needy families in Newmarket. We also do a lot of things weekly. We do the morning announcements over the intercom, lead the school in the Pledge of Allegiance, raise and lower the flag, and help out by collecting recycling bins. Also, we work the school store. Later in the year, we help plan Spirit Week. When we have meetings and want to try and turn an idea into an action, we have key people who talk to people who would be involved, research it, etc. And the next meeting, during Action Update, we talk about what we have learned. Well, found out. That is just some information about what Student Council does.
Excellent. One more. Go ahead, Dylan.
We also have Sierra Yim, our secretary with student council.
Get a group photo here. I just want to say before you sit down, I want to thank you for the work that you do as officers, because you take some bigger responsibility than everybody else on student council, and it's great to see you, committing that time to work to make it a better place and to do things for people, and I think it's just terrific, your report that you said and the things that you do. I do want to say to you, I really feel bad and I apologize, but usually when we recognize people here, we always give them a little gift. Sometimes it's a gift card to here or there or whatever, and the person who does that had to bolt out of here today dealing with an issue. So I don't have them, but I will hunt you down tomorrow, and before you hit the weekend, they'll be in your hands. So congratulations. Thank you again for coming. And we usually, after the recognition, take about a 5-minute break so that all the board members can greet you personally and thank you, and then also so you can gracefully exit before we get started again. So 5-minute recess.
right. Back to it. Thanks again for arranging that for those folks to come. It's a
Yeah,
great
it's-
reminder
it's
why
fun.
we're here.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
And Meg, it's great to see you,
Thank you. Good to be back.
rather than,
The conference call.
The telephone.
Awkward.
all right. So this is the spot in the agenda for visitors to make comments if they would like. So if anyone here wants to do that. As per usual, it seems, no takers. So we'll go to minutes.
I would like to make a motion to accept the minutes of January 3rd.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Any discussion?
Nope.
Hearing none. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I'll have to abstain because I wasn't there.
Okay, thank you. So 4 ayes and 1 abstention. And we had non-public that evening also.
I will make a motion to approve the minutes from the non-public meeting on January 3rd.
I'll second that.
Discussion on those. Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And
Have to
1 noted
yep.
abstention as well.
I would like to make a motion to accept the minutes of January 7th.
I'll second that.
Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay. Then quickly we move to student report. Emma, what do you have for us this evening?
Well, tonight the boys varsity is playing against Winton Lindenborough, and they are 8-0. Tomorrow's Mules Madness, and the boys varsity is playing against PCA at 7:00. The girls basketball is 5-4, and they play tomorrow at PCA. Finals start next week. Actually, I only have one final. The schedule is Tuesday is red A and B block, Wednesday is black A and B block, Thursday is red C and D block, and Friday is black C and D block. It's also on the website for anyone who wants to print it out, and Mr. Andriski will be sending out an alert now talking about it. The halfway there dinner put on by student council was tonight from 4 to 7 for all the seniors. And the high school blacklight dance is on Saturday the 26th and will be also put on by student council.
Very cool.
Any questions for Emma on those things?
What's going on? Halfway there, huh?
Yeah.
Downhill.
Exciting.
Yeah. All right. Blacklight dance, what is that what it sounds like?
Yeah, pretty much. You wear white
wear your
and
white.
like glow in the dark stuff. Yeah.
You gonna make it, Cliff?
Probably not. I don't have any glow in the dark stuff. All right.
Alex is like,
Dr. Hayes, you have a superintendent's report highlights you want to?
Really just one thing. I'd given you a report, but almost all of it really is germane to other things coming up later in the program here. But the last item that I had in my report I want to talk about, I don't know if even if you were aware, but after you had left the public hearing the other evening, a gentleman got up and questioned the legality of you voting to abstain on 2 warrant articles, and then citing the reason that you did. And so it prompted me to go and look up, okay, what does abstention mean, and was it legal or illegal? And clearly it was legal.
Mm-hmm.
And so it really is a learning moment for me, and I think for all of us. If a board member is present but abstains, then he or she counts towards the quorum requirement, but does not count as a yes or a no vote.
Mm-hmm.
So the key piece is this counting towards a quorum. Another way of stating it, an abstention is neither a yes vote nor a no vote, but acquiescence to the will of those voting in the majority. So when you abstained and the other 4 were here, you were kind of giving that, whichever way the rest of them wanted. It was the way it plays out. The reason I said the word quorum is suppose only 3 of you were here. That's a quorum. If then there's a vote and one of you abstains, you still have a quorum. We have a valid vote, and if the other 2 vote in favor or vote against, you're really still a minority of the board, but in that setting, the majority of the people present, it prevails. And yet that can make a sticky issue. So when I started reading about this, it was, where it really gets to be problematic is if you only have that limited quorum, and so just to be aware of that. But no, perfectly legal and legitimate. So, okay, that's all I had.
Okay, moving on to facilities, are there things that you'd like to mention regarding that?
I do. First of all, there is a meeting at the Oyster River SAU office next Tuesday, the 22nd. It's at 6 p.m. Meg is attending, right? And Cliff is going because Chet won't be able to. And I'll be there with Chris Andriski, right? And Chris Mazzoni. And so we'll have our first more formal meeting. The other one was just a beginning meeting, so that'll be a good thing. The second one is relative to fire and life safety, and I put materials into in your packet, but what I've got are about 6 slides that I'd rather explain it. It's easier than the map. So if you take a seat out there, and I'll do some slides. Okay?
You have heard me mention a couple times that the architect as well as the engineers from SFC have looked at egress from our second floor science labs and to figure out ways to make 2 code compliant egresses from there. And as you know, both of them right now are not code compliant. And they looked at several options and really only found one that was viable and fully met the code. They have approval from the local fire officials right now. Still, I think, waiting for some word from the state fire marshal's office, but since they work closely with the engineering firm, they're usually very comfortable. If the engineering firm says it's good, then they go along with it. But I wanted to go through this tonight so that you fully understood the impact of doing this. Remember what we're doing here is we're using money out of the dual purpose fund right now to plan a design, an engineering design. Right now we just have schematic, and get all that engineering work done so that in March or early April we can go out to bid, have a contractor ready, and then begin once the school year ends to do the work. The fire marshal has made it clear. When he came out and visited in December, you may recall he came out and he gave us some leeway in terms of an elevator. We could delay that. In terms of egress from science, it's what we had to do. This is a floor plan of the second floor. And what you see there, first at the very top in gray, that's the physics lab. Working down the page, the green is the chemistry lab. And then to the right of the chemistry, I got a pointer here, don't I? Yes, I do. This is chem storage as well. They're 2 separate rooms, but they're both chem storage. This is a mechanical room. This is a life science room. So those are the 3 science labs that we have at the high school. This is also chem storage, but it serves other storage needs as well. The egress, these are the egresses here in the red. And this one here is simply a doorway that goes stairway down into that wood-floored hallway that runs to the gymnasium. And that stairwell is illegal and it has to come out. So we needed a solution for that. And you can see, it's pretty easy for physics classes or physical science classes to come out. But chemistry, if they had to go out this way, would have to find its way through the chemical storage, come back here, up into that room, and come there. And so it really is a lousy design. Over here, this is a stairway down, but it doesn't drop you in any particularly good place. Certainly not a code-compliant stairwell, so that would have to come out. We also have this long hallway here, which takes us out into the main hallway, but even that is not, because of its distances from other stairwells, it doesn't satisfy the code. So we have to do something to resolve both of those issues. Over on that side of the rooms, this is the solution. It's to create, it's to create a hallway that runs all the way to the main hall. And because of its proximity to this, it meets the fire code, this stairwell down. And then what we'd have to do is, let me back up for a moment, show you what was there. You eliminate that stairwell and create a floor. The mechanical room, there's mechanical equipment in there. There's going to be expense in either putting that up in the ceiling or putting it up on the roof. And it may be aged. It could be we may have to replace it if we move it. Here's chemical storage, and part of that gets lost, and part of this one gets lost. And let me show it to you again, because the biggest loss is right in here. This is our life science lab. This is pretty much classroom seating, if you will, tables and chairs. And we have two big lab tables here. And as you saw on there, it wipes them out. There's a hallway that comes right through there and wipes out those two lab tables. When I've talked with the architect about it, what we talked about is having to create some kind of a counter and cabinetry along here, and then have movable tables that can then go 90 degrees to that can create peninsulas, so there'd still be places there where they could do labs. In terms of egress, the same egress here for the physics lab, but it's a quick shot to the hallway now instead of going downstairs. And then this one here, we'd cut off again part of that storage and create a direct access to that hall. The other one, we'd have to create a stairwell. And that's what, and let me back up, that's what you see right here. When I go to red again, so this class would come out and go into this stairwell, and this class as well would go into this stairwell. Some of you may recall this really odd corridor that goes all the way. There'd be a wall built there, so there'd no longer be that corridor. They would have to come out of here and go down. And what would happen is that corridor being blocked off would also then put a door on the main corridor, and this would become storage or perhaps some other function. But because there's no other exit but here, it'd be very limited in what we use it for. When you get on the next floor, again, this is that wooden floored hallway going down to the gym, so that gets eliminated. That's gone, so that looks pretty good. This one over here is part of the stairwell coming from upstairs that would be eliminated, the current one that's not code compliant. So that disappears. Now over here, this is the library. This is the library circulation table. This is pretty much used for reading now. It's really not part of the library. And this is a SPED resource room. The solution impacts the SPED resource room. So that that stairwell that I talked about, while it was out in the open, comes down, but on the first floor, it comes right into this room here. and then there's a little jog that takes them outside. Let me back up again so you can see what that was. This was a ramp coming down, and that ramp will still be there, but the solution is to do that. Now, when I've talked with Dan about what do we do about these rooms because we're so limited in space, he believes this is not any kind of a bearing wall, and that what we may be able to do is shift this classroom up to occupy there, and then shift the reading classroom and encroach some space into the library. So to try and keep equal spaces, because those spaces are really, really needed. I was in the reading room today, and it was packed, and we just need it. So then, these are more his designs that he has, and I've given you those, that shows what's demoed, where there are new walls, where there are new stairs. I'm not going to spend a lot of time with these, but again, there's more than just creating the access. It's moving things. It's creating a different science lab. If we're going to have science, life science at all, we've got to do something in there. And this, you can get a better view here. You can see these are the lab tables that have gas and other utilities, but if we create a counter along here, we can take advantage of them. I have to tell you, my best guess right now is that this costs maybe $325,000 to $400,000, somewhere in that vicinity. We have to do the engineering analysis and the design, and both the principal and I and others are going to sit down and also figure out, all right, programmatically, now what do we need to do? Example in the science lab, example with the reading and the special ed, and make recommendations. I didn't say it, but I also remember there's a fume hood in one of the science storage areas that really needs replacement. So all this is going to cost money. Right now in that dual purpose fund, we have, I believe, roughly $670,000. We spent $100,000 dealing with the ceilings. So we have about 670, and it's looking like 325 to 400,000, somewhere in that vicinity, is going to be eaten up just to deal with this. So that's where we are.
Any questions? Jim's packing up the PowerPoint regarding that egress design, what have you. It's kind of striking how
Frustrating, yeah.
how much teaching space we're losing in a
Right.
building that's already so strapped for that.
Right. And what I don't know, I believe this can't be done in the summer. That's what they've always said. I mean, we're going to try and maximize the summer, but the beginning of the school year, these spaces are going to be impacted, and we just don't know how. We'll have to sit with the architect and figure out how.
And Dr. Hayes, are teachers aware of this design and the potential impacting their lab?
Yeah, I spent some time today, and I talked with them about it.
And they have opportunity for input or whatever, I don't know if there's...
Yeah, example, the life science lab, we'll sit down with we'll involve the teacher as well. But if you go into that lab, typical science lab ought to be 1,400 square feet, minimum, all right? That room, I'll bet, if it's 1,000, it's probably 1,000 square feet. So it's too small to begin with, and now we're shrinking it. But so we got to try and figure out a way with flexible furniture and design to still provide lab opportunities for the kids.
So those tables that are going to get wiped out, you said that they have gas going to them? Is that appropriate?
Yes.
So we still need them to have
access
Right.
to that. So your idea is to have some kind of cabinetry that will,
Yeah, with sinks, you
But-
know, and.
so they won't lose access, it'll just be
We
different.
need to do that. It's going to be different. But I've seen that design before, where you have flexible tables and then you move them up to the counter to create
Peninsula.
peninsulas, if you will. And it's just, sometimes it's a real reach. You have to have the utilities and the cabinetry in the right place to take advantage of the portable, of the flexible furniture, so.
Now, exiting out that, with creating that hallway through that life
Yes.
science, you said because it has access to that stairway, is that the main stairway, the one with the lift and everything
Yes,
on it?
that's the one with the
That's
lift.
okay.
Right, in the center, yeah. And again, normally, stairwells are supposed to arrive at an exit, but apparently that one is located in such a way that it's, in such a place that it is compliant.
Compliant.
It's not a problem. Now, the other thing that creates an expense, and I didn't explain this here, I talked about building that stairwell, the second floor of which is really new, it's like new space, it's up over a roof. One of the things you have to account for are I forget the term he used now, but you have to account for, now, you've got a snow load that's going to come on the roof down below. And so we may have to do new roofs and new structures to support that, because you got a two-story and a one-story. What happens is the snow hits this and creates a lot more weight than typical, and so you have to structurally correct for that load, and it's so and one of the things we're leery about, and that's why I gave you that range. We're going to have to get up into ceilings again, and once we do, you never know what you're going to find.
Why not just put a good old-fashioned fire escape on the outside of the building? Big steel, a door onto a landing and a fire escape down.
As I understood it, fire escapes are not code compliant, are not legal. I'm not sure exactly. That's the wrong term. You can have outdoor stairways, and I think they looked at that as an option, but it didn't work for us. You can't just have like the typical fire escape like you may see on the side of a building.
An apartment building.
Yeah. I mean, in December, when we were here, I know we looked at, is there a way to create, instead of having these windows that looked out over the first floor roof from the second floor, put a door, find a way to get across the roof and down, and it just, they looked at other options, and it just didn't work. I can have Dan come, I'm sure, and talk to you more about it, but it just, this was our only option. They looked at another way that created another hallway, but again, fire codes are more complicated than I can explain. So.
I mean, I have to believe that they considered those things, but it just kind of, like, from my
We were, and Dan could.
layman's perspective, bolt on some steel and be done.
I know. I can invite Dan into the next meeting and have him explain it to you, but I remember back in December, we absolutely looked at that.
Other questions regarding more good news from the building?
Relocation of the mechanical equipment, I mean, is there a lot?
I'm not sure what's in there.
It's obviously not
And-
our boiler or
Yeah,
anything, maybe.
no, I don't know what it is, whether it's heaters, heat motors, or circulation motors, or pumps. I really have no idea.
So that expense still remains to be,
He felt he hadn't really looked at it closely enough, and his engineers are coming out to the building, I think, next few days, somewhere in there, to go and look at that and see exactly what the solution might be. He said it may very well be that we have to put it up on the roof, but he was more concerned that if it's as dated equipment as he's seen throughout the building, it'll probably need replacement and not just moving.
By moving it, it might. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeesh.
That's fun.
So there'll be more to come on this, I imagine?
I'll invite Dan to the next meeting, yeah. Mhm.
All right, thank you, I
Yep.
guess.
Sorry.
Okay. Okay, next we have Mr. Webb from the 5th grade. Still here this evening, well planned.
And Marie Richards came as well, right?
So-
Why don't you come up? Yep. She's both 5th grade teachers, so.
Hello again. So we're here to request permission for the annual 5th grade trip to Boston. It's scheduled for June 4th, and we've been doing it for many years. And it's a really great trip because it gives the kids the opportunity to see in person some of the sites, historical sites, that they've learned about and read about in our American Revolution unit. And we travel down by bus. We bring parent chaperones with us, and we start at the Boston Common. And the first part of the trip is a tour guide with he or she is dressed in colonial costume, and they take us around to the different sites, and they tell really interesting stories, kind of like stuff that's not in the history books, kind of grabs the kids' interest. We stop by the Granary Burial Ground, the old City Hall, the site of the Boston Massacre, the Old North Church, and that tour is about an hour and a half, and it ends at Faneuil Hall. And from that point, we walk over to the dock near the aquarium, and we take a short boat ride over to the Charlestown Navy Yard. And it's fun for the kids to get out on the boat and see the city from the water. And then where we come in, the USS Constitution is there, and as well as a World War II ship, which we have gone on in the past, but we don't always have time to tour those. But we pick up the Freedom Trail again, and then we hike up to the Bunker Hill Monument. And that's where we have lunch. The kids have the opportunity to climb the monument. A ranger comes out and gives us a talk about the battle, so it's kind of cool for the kids because they're sitting right on, exactly, they can see where the battle took place. And we should get back after school hours, like 4 or 5.
About 4:30 or 5.
But
And it's great because right now we're teaching it in the classroom, so when we go to Boston that day, they get to see it for real. So they love it, the kids.
so that's pretty much it.
That's quite a haul.
Yeah.
They're going to be busy.
Yeah, they're tired by the end of the day.
The teachers are very tired too. It's a long day, but it's a wonderful day.
It really is.
Yeah. It's such a gift to be in such close proximity to such historically significant places. It would be a shame if we didn't do trips like these.
Yeah, we're really fortunate in that way, where we live with history, so.
It's great stuff. And as it's a out-of-state field trip, by policy, it needs board approval, which is why you're here.
Right.
Yes. I would like to make a motion to approve the grade 5 trip to Boston, Massachusetts.
I'll second that.
Any discussion?
It's on June.
June
what's the
4th?
date?
June 4th.
Have fun.
Thank you.
All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Have a grand time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Do you ever take pictures and stuff?
Yes.
Yeah,
we do.
definitely.
It'd be interesting to see if the kids could come back someday and like show us what they've learned or something.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like a
Just,
June board meeting or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
definitely.
that would be
Put together a PowerPoint.
Yeah, something like
presentation.
that.
We do
We
that.
can do that for next time.
Because I haven't been there in so long, I could like stand a refresher course myself. Just an idea.
Okay.
We won't make you
No, no,
come
no.
in costume, though.
No, 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 no.
Colonial North. Terrific. To be in 5th grade again.
I know.
Okay, Principal Todd Allen is here this evening. Thank you for coming from the Oyster River High School. And
Thanks for having me. I do have a PowerPoint, so I didn't realize it was going to require people to move.
okay, it helps us stay fresh.
Okay. I don't need to turn the lights off, if that helps. Oh, does it?
That's
Be able to go to the meeting then. Silly it.
charter school too. Charter school doesn't want me to leave. She wants to stay, you know. My history. The SST for 6 months. Yeah. I don't have a chance to go. That hip was bad because I worked 2 years on it before.
First of all, being a public school administrator, there aren't a lot of opportunities to go around and try to sell your school to people, so I appreciate the opportunity to come here. More often than not, when I talk about the school, it's in the context of budget talks and trying to defend programs, so it's kind of nice to be able to just give you the broad overview, so thank you for having me. Oyster River High School, home of the Bobcats. Our leadership team is myself, Todd Allen. I have a dean of students, dean of faculty, a guidance director, special ed coordinator, athletic director, and a school resource officer. That's what we call our leadership team. Things that we value very highly at Oyster River. First of all, we have a school culture that we really value and promote excellence. We really, in all aspects of our community, from community service, academics, athletics, it was very, very high priority. A very supportive environment. One of the things I did some interviews, or we did a cable channel talk show, if you will, with a group of graduating seniors last spring to kind of ask them what was it that they valued the most about their school, and what they talked about most was the relationships that they built with their teachers, and feeling very much like they were supported and cared about in their environment. Our school district philosophy is engaging every learner. We do have heterogeneously grouped all of our classes, so we don't track. For the most part, the students select the courses that they want to take, and in a sense, I guess you could say they track themselves based on interest, but there's no ability grouping done in any way, except for classes where, obviously when you reach the highest end of some math and science classes like AP Stats, obviously if you have an interest, those might be considered homogeneously grouped, but it's not because we're tracking them, it's because that's the choices that they're making. Our entire program is electives based, so I'll explain that in a minute when I kind of run through some of the classes. Special education, we have an inclusion model. We have 4 different special education resource support rooms. One that works with each grade level in kids. So basically we have a freshman case manager that works with all the freshman students, sophomore, and so forth. And then we have 2 extended resource rooms for kids that have more significant needs. So we're able to meet most student needs, but all kids, we work very hard to keep kids in the classroom and part of the regular environment. We do use an RTI model, meets every week. We're really data-driven in terms of making decisions about students and student needs and what programs to offer. Student choice is a big value that we have, going back to the elective system, right down to the classes kids take, projects that they do within the classroom. A lot of the structure of the instruction is very much based on trying to get kids to identify things that they're passionate about and encouraging them to pursue those things. You'll see a lot of project-type fairs where kids are pursuing individual passions at our school. And then lastly on this list, we really want a very student-centered environment. I'll give you an example of that. I mean, we're approaching midterms much the same way you guys are, and a lot of the conversation is, okay, you got these cumulative midterms and finals. Let's start talking about what's in the best interest of the individual students. Do we need to make modifications for some students? How do we make sure that every kid has an opportunity to be successful on those? And so we're really focused on that. In terms of, we don't have the data for this year's class, but last year's class, 2012, we had 69% of our students go to 4-year colleges, 18.5% went to 2-year colleges. We use Naviance, which I'm sure you have some similar system here to submit transcripts and so forth. It's also a great resource for parents and families to kind of keep tabs on the status of applications and transcript submissions and all that kind of thing. This is just a list. You don't have to read it all, but it gives you an idea. This is just the colleges our kids were accepted to last year. There's more colleges than we have students. I did the math. There's 210 colleges listed here. Last spring we had 400 acceptances amongst our senior class, which worked out to about 2.5 to 3 acceptances per student. These are our graduation requirements. In order to graduate from Oyster River High School, you have to have 22 credits. We require 4 credits of English, 3 credits of math, and you can read through it. When talking about our elective system, you'll notice, like looking at the English credits, the one course that is an absolute requirement is Essentials of English. So every freshman comes in and they're required to take Essentials of English. Once they've done that, it's sort of a gateway to our elective system. So all of our classes from that point on are half-year classes that are a range of things from Shakespeare, journalism, video production, advanced writing, poetry and fiction, debate, a whole range of electives. And within that, kids have to meet certain requirements. So some of the classes are heavy in writing, so they have to have a half credit of a course that's heavy in writing. They have to have a half credit of a course that's heavy in literature, half credit of a course that's communications related, and obviously it all adds up in the end to 4 credits. And a similar logic can be seen throughout the other departments. Freshmen are the ones that have the least flexibility in their schedule. All freshmen take Essentials of English, which is an English class, World Cultures, which is a social studies class. They all take A Math and A Science class. To some extent, most freshmen take either physical science or biological sciences, although for next year we're changing that and we're going to have all freshmen taking biology. So it's going to be a biology that's accessible to all students. The logic, the reason why we're doing that is to hopefully open up more science options to kids later on and still help them meet their requirements. So anyway, so those are all the required courses. And in the end, 22 credits, which is our credit offerings roughly match the New Hampshire Scholars Program in terms of what's required. So we usually have about 75% of our kids that meet the requirements of this New Hampshire Scholars Program when they graduate. Our broad curriculum, we have a comprehensive program, very heavy in college preparatory work. I did a meeting with the PTO the other night in which we invited back a bunch of our recent graduates who were either sophomores or juniors in college, just to kind of have them talk with our parents about, how is it going for them in college and what is it about the experience that they had at Oyster River that might have helped them be successful in college. And one of the things that they really talked about is the intensive focus on writing, that they felt really very happy that their teachers had asked them to write all those essays and do all that writing, because they realized once they got into college, the ability to do that is so significant to your success. I had a student last year who was chosen by NASA he was at Carnegie Mellon University, and he was chosen for a summer program by NASA, and he was there when the Mars rover landed on the moon, not at Mars, but he was in the room when the rover landed on the moon. He was a part of that whole thing, and he came back to talk to our school board. And one of the things he said was, I didn't realize it until I got into my major in science and engineering, how important it was to be a good writer. And he came specifically to thank his English teachers because he realized, wow, that really did pay off. Even though I thought math and science didn't require it, it does. It very much does. We offer a wide range of AP courses. We have 9 of them. Our kids have the option to be involved in the career technical centers. Our kids go to Dover, Somersworth, or Rochester, depending on what they're choosing. Right now, I have kids that are doing the ROTC program at Dover. I have kids that are in the fire science program. I have kids in culinary. I have kids in building trades, cosmetology. I think those are That's, I think those are all of them, our kids are involved, but there's a whole wide range. I think oh, I just take that back, automotive is another big one. But there's 47 programs that they can choose from all of those different schools. We also have an internship program. We have kids, generally it's seniors that do the internship program. Internships in banks, internships. I had a student do an internship with a company in Portsmouth that does robotics. I have a student doing an internship with a potter to do pottery. Had kids do internships in education settings, in classrooms with teachers to kind of learn about education. Hospitals. So we work really hard to give that an opportunity, and kids can earn up to half a credit on an internship opportunity. We also have independent study options. Basically what it allows kids to do is to kind of, if they don't see something we have 157 course offerings at Oyster River High School. If they don't see something in there, they can say, okay, I want to suggest an alternative. I had two seniors who really big on writing, but they didn't see a writing course they wanted to take as seniors, so they created a course that's going to look at critiquing music and movies. And so they're working with an English teacher to create this writing intensive course where they'll learn about critiques. So anyway, independent studies is an option. We have a number of kids who take courses at UNH through the CATS program. I'm sure you probably have kids from Newmarket to do that as well. You have to be accepted to the program to apply, and then you can access college courses as a high school student. We also offer within our school Project Running Start courses. We have a child development program. We have a web page development class. We have a psychology class. We have an Adobe class, and there's one other that I'm forgetting, and the teacher will be mad at me. But anyway, we have 5. They're courses that kids can take through the community college system, and it's dual credit, so they get credit for the class towards high school graduation, but it's also college credit. And the Project Running Start allows you to take up to 4 courses, and they cost only $150. So a student can graduate from high school with a semester's worth of college credit for $600. Not a bad buy. And then lastly, we're really working to increase the utilization of VLAX courses because we're finding it, particularly that we use it a lot in credit recovery opportunities for kids. But it's a great opportunity because it's free to New Hampshire schools, and it allows us to really broaden our course offerings. In terms of SATs, 85% of our student body last year took the SATs compared to 75% for the state. This is a 5-year. You can see we're pretty typically 85-ish% of our students take the SATs. Our SAT reading, our kids do quite well. This is our math. Again, our kids do quite well. And then this is writing, and our kids do quite well. So anyway, comparatively speaking, this gives you an idea of where we stack up in the total scores versus the state and the nation. So generally speaking, our kids score well on tests for what that's worth. I mentioned AP classes. We offer 9 of those, and we have a pretty high participation rate in that. One of the things we're very proud of is that our kids also do very well on those tests once they get there. So 97% of our kids last year scored a 3 or above on AP tests. And a lot of the recent Oyster River graduates that spoke the other night at the PTO talked about how valuable that was to them because it moved them along in the course sequence in college. And even if they didn't get credit, they were able to start at a point farther along in their education. They were able to get to the meat of what they wanted to study much quicker. So certainly a worthwhile opportunity. This is the percentage of our students and how they scored on AP. This is a list of all of the clubs and activities that we have to offer. One of the things, as I mentioned before, we really try to be very student-centered in our interest. At the last thing you'll see, there's 3 clubs that were added this year. The first one, Ski Club. I'm really proud. I have a senior boy who came to me in September and said, "Hey, Mr. Allen, we got a bunch of kids who want to ski. We don't have a ski club. We need a ski club." And I'm like, "Okay, great. Go ahead, take the bull by the horns and make it happen." He starts contacting ski resorts, bus companies, the whole bit. He comes back to me a month later. He's got the whole thing pulled together. He's like, okay, Mr. Allen, we're ready to go. We got a ski club. And so obviously I encouraged him to do it, so we dove in and have a ski club. I finally find out after he's done all this work to make it happen, and he says, I don't even ski. I'm like, okay, so I'm glad. Well, thank you. I'm glad you cared about your classmates, but we have 49 kids in the ski club. It's a brand new thing, so it's pretty cool. Another student, a freshman coming in, wanted to have a martial arts club. His dad happens to be a martial arts instructor, so now we added a martial arts club, and then we're adding a yoga activity. I don't know if we'll call it a club yet, but it's new. But basically, we try to be very responsive to student interest and needs. So the clubs that are listed here, the second one, their beekeeping club. That was another one that was a student-driven thing. We had a group of kids last year. They discovered that our Spanish teacher, Tom Hausman, is a beekeeper. And so they started bugging him to, come on, can you teach us about beekeeping? And the next thing we know, we've got this beekeeping club, and they are connecting with all these beekeepers all over the area, and they're going out and visiting beekeeping places. Now they want me to put a beekeeping setup on the roof of the high school. It's like, I don't know. I got enough allergy issues. I'm not sure I want to invite trouble, but we'll see. We'll see. So anyway, a lot of really neat activities that kids are involved in. These are our athletic opportunities. One of the things I'm very proud of in athletics is that we have just over 70% of our student body does an interscholastic athletic activity. And if I go back to the clubs and activities, if you look at clubs and activities and you put that together with athletics, about 90% of our student body is involved in one of those things. So I think that's really key to getting kids interested in their school, is doing things outside the classroom that they kind of enjoy. And as long as we're talking about sports, and we have some pretty successful teams too. We have a darn good soccer team, darn good cross-country team. I think we've won the Class I Division II state championship for boys cross-country now 5 years in a row. So we've got some pretty successful teams. And we also added last year, NHIA started a unified sports program, which is a little different. It's different than Special Olympics. It's a combination of special needs as well as non-special needs athletes competing in a sport. And so we started, and that's actually become a fairly popular program. We had our basketball game the other day, and our kids did great. This is our school schedule. We basically have a 7-period day. You can imagine we look at a 2-week period. 1 week, Monday through Friday, we have a 7-period day, 7 50-minute classes. The second week, Monday through Wednesday, they have a 7-period day. And then on Thursday, Friday, we run a block schedule. So if you look at the top schedule, the left-hand column is the schedule 8 out of 10 days. We're running it that way. And then every other Thursday, Friday, we run the block, which basically creates an hour-and-a-half class periods for kids. It's, you guys actually have a 4x4, you have a 4 block? Or? Yeah, so you blocks are nothing new to you. In fact, I envy you for all your blocks. We don't have enough of them. Because this is at just enough to kind of, when people who are really into the longer block periods, it's just enough to make them go, gee, I wish I had this more often. For those who hate them, obviously it's just enough to make them say, gee, I'm glad we only have this once every 2 weeks. So it's sort of a compromise. But hopefully we'll get to having more of those. Our staff, this is made up of, we have 62.1 professional staff, listed all the way down through there. Quite a wide range of things. And class sizes, in our district there has been, we've been under a lot of pressure because of declining enrollments in our district to really look at the issue of class sizes. And one of the things that frustrates me when they ask me what's the average class size is in a high school environment, it's hard to just say, here's a number, because it's not that relevant to the whole school at large, because some classes are a lot smaller, some classes are a lot bigger. But this breaks it down by department in terms of what we're dealing with. Our math department is the one that has the highest numbers. I'm not happy about that, but that's the way that is. But you can see, typically, our school board has a policy of 18 to 22 is the acceptable guideline for how many should be in a class. Clearly, classes that are significantly below that. Usually that's because that's how many you can deal with in those classes. So for example, video production, there's 10 workstations to be able to do video production. In shop, 12 is the maximum. So that's why those numbers are on the lower side. But our school average is 16.8 students in a class. And I put this up here, and I couldn't seem to make it work, but I did want to mention as a last point, on our school, high school website, because we're actually in talks with a number of school districts with regards to tuition students, and so we were dealing with the question of prospective students. We've added a link on our webpage. In fact, actually, I can just log out of this and, can I get on the internet here, Jim?
Yes.
I can actually just show it to you. We've added a link on our webpage for prospective students, and it contains a lot of information that will probably, hopefully, answer a lot of commonly asked questions about our school system. Is the high school webpage. You can see across the top, it's prospective students. If you click on that, it will give you a variety of resources. The high school profile, which I included in the backup that board members were given tonight, it's the information we send out with all college applications, kind of giving you a rundown of everything that we offer. Our program of studies, which covers all the classes we offer, registration process, again, list of extracurriculars. But what I like the best, if you go down below, there's this step inside Oyster River High School. When you have 7 minutes, it's a video we made last year. We were applying for the Excellence in Education Awards, and it's a promotional video we did. Came in second. But it kind of gives you an idea of life at Oyster River High School, and certainly, if you ever want to watch that, click on it and watch it. There's also a link to another one. That one, the class of 2012 plans for post-graduation. That was the one I was telling you about. I had a panel of a dozen seniors kind of talking about where they were going and what their plans were and what they valued about their Oyster River experience. Give you an idea what kids have to say about their experience. So anyway, that's all I have for you. I'd be happy to answer questions if people have any. We'll go back. Thank you. Yeah, I'll leave that up for now.
I'll leave that just in case you need to. Sure.
And I apologize for talking fast, but there's a lot to go over, so feel free to, any questions you might have.
Thanks for the presentation. Spoke quickly, but you covered a lot of ground. I appreciate
Well,
that.
Jim gave me an email with a lot of questions, and so I tried to include it all in my PowerPoint.
What would they like to know?
What do they want to know? And he said everything. So.
Well, you did your homework. And
Oh, thank you.
Any questions for?
3 years of math, are you thinking of expanding it to 4 years in the future?
We have not had that conversation. However, I would tell you that the vast majority of kids do take 4 years of
Yes.
math. Again, we really try to value student choice, and so what we've done is we've created some math-oriented electives that kids really get into. One math elective that is very dominated by seniors who are not necessarily planning to be engineers or something. It's called Computer Integrated Math, and it's just a great course. They basically design, use software to design furniture, buildings, all that kind of stuff, and obviously there's an awful lot of math involved in that. So we definitely want our kids to do as much math as they possibly can, and they're certainly encouraged to in the process, but making it a requirement for all kids can be limiting for some.
Yeah.
So, but most kids, I would say probably 75% at least do 4 years.
4, yeah.
I was curious if you know, this might be better asked of your special ed director, but how many out-of-district placements you might have in your school?
I can certainly, from what I can remember, it's a very small number, 1 or 2 at the high school, and probably district-wide, maybe 3 or 4.
So maybe just a handful or something?
Very small number, yeah. We have tried, certainly in the last 10 or 15 years, to try to do everything we can to keep our students in-house and to create experiences and programs in hopes of meeting those needs. One of the more recent directions we've gone in is to recognize that we have a higher percentage of kids on the autism Asperger's spectrum, and creating more and more programs within the school to help them be successful. So we really try to do that. At the high school level in particular, we've actually begun to look at some courses that are co-taught by special ed and regular ed teachers, really geared at trying to meet very specific needs. So we're really trying to do everything to keep them in-house.
Okay.
With the CAT program you have with UNH, do the students actually walk over to the campus itself between their classes?
Well, that is one of the challenges of taking courses at UNH, that they're on a college schedule and we're on our schedule. It does require a student to be ready to be flexible with some of their other courses. We certainly work with them to make that happen. Usually the students who are taking those courses are juniors and seniors, and so they typically have access to a car, and it's about from the high school to the UNH campus is probably a mile. So could they walk it? Yes, they could, but that would take up one whole period of their day, so they typically don't.
So they know the ins and outs, so they know where to park and so forth.
Yes, yeah. These are for the most part, a lot of the Durham kids. They know the town. They know the.
And I imagine that ability to be able to do that really flavors their choices in classes.
Absolutely. One of the things that we're working on is that, in fact, I visited Hanover last month, and one of the things that was very striking to me is they have a very open relationship with Dartmouth. And so they have, I think, Justin Campbell, the principal over there, told me they had something like 47 seniors taking courses at Dartmouth. And I would love to get to the point where we were able to do that. And so we have had, my superintendent has been talking with Mr. Huddleston in the hopes of developing some kind of hometown arrangement, just because it would really be nice to be able to tap into that, have more kids. Because one of the limitations right now of the CATS program is you have to be accepted to the program, and they have academic standards. And for some kids they might have a passion in one particular area, if they don't have a grade point average that meets the standard, they can't get into that program. So we're hoping to be able to figure out something that can make it more seamless for kids.
Good.
Yep.
Can you speak to the use of technology? How many computers are in classrooms? Do kids bring their own?
We do have a bring your own device policy, so kids can do that. We have a guest network that kids can access. So if they have a laptop or an iPhone or any of those things that they could use as a technology device to support them in their classroom, they can do that. That being said, we also have, I've got to count them. We have 4 desktop labs, and then we have 5 mobile carts, a classroom set, and then we have a set of iPads. So basically we have the equivalent of about 10 classrooms worth of computers, or 250-ish available for students to use, in addition to a variety of technology devices that are available to be signed out at the library. If you do the math, I think we got basically 1 technology device available for every 2 kids in our school. And then if kids bring their own device into it. We are, however, working in the direction of a one-to-one computer initiative. Our technology plan for next year involves upgrading our infrastructure in order to make it able to handle a one-to-one computer initiative. We've entered into some talks with Apple about having iPads for every kid, and certainly something along that line will probably be happening in the very near future. Beyond that, we have interactive whiteboards in probably a third of our classrooms. That's more driven by teacher desire to have them and ability to utilize them. So as teachers become interested and want to have that kind of technology, we generally look to try to pursue those opportunities to provide it to them.
Great. Other questions?
I was curious if you could talk about bullying policies or bullying curriculum that have you established a bullying curriculum in your school?
Yes. We, all freshmen would take a health class, and there's a significant component of bullying. All of those educational programs take place there. We also have a very active guidance program that's in classrooms over the course of the 4 years kids are in school, dealing with various topics that come up relevant to that. Beyond that, we also have an advisory program where every student is assigned to an adult. I have an advisory of 10 kids, and we meet regularly. And often the topics that are addressed within those advisories are topics related to respect and getting along. Just as a side note, I had a group of members of the Deerfield school community at our school on Tuesday, visiting the school and touring. And at the end of the visit, we sat down together and we were discussing, they had questions for us and so forth. And one of the first things that they said was, what do you do to make your kids so nice? Why are your kids so nice? Did you tell them we were coming? I mean, what was going on? And we had not. And what it really came down to was that there is just a real tone of mutual respect amongst kids and teachers, and I think that starts very early, and it's emphasized. As I mentioned before, one of the things that our graduates often talk about is they really valued the small class sizes, so they had very close relationships with their teachers, and I think that's important, and I think you start with that, and then a lot of other things. You can influence a lot of other areas by having that close relationship.
So the students get the direct training, freshmen. Does the staff go through any?
Yes, every year we do have a bullying training
awareness
that we do awareness piece. Okay. Yes. Yep.
Okay.
In your leadership team, you've got a couple roles that are differently named, or maybe they're different functions as we have. You have a dean of students, dean of faculty.
Sure.
Can you describe?
Sure.
What the
our dean of students, he is the head of our data team. Collecting information about kids. He does a lot of the disciplinary work that is done. He is involved in our RTI program, and he really is the focusing on the student side of the educational equation in terms of progress. We have a Power School as our software that we use for grading and so forth. He monitors that to make sure teachers are keeping that up to date. So he focuses on the student side of the equation. Our dean of faculty, she supervises a higher percentage of the staff, plus she is involved in a lot of the curriculum initiatives. This year she's doing a lot of work with trying to curriculum map, because we're really looking at integrating the Common Core, and so she's spending a lot of time on that, and also planning our professional development activities that take place within the school. That actually is a new move that we did. We had a traditional 2 assistant principals prior to this year, and as we looked at our functions and looking at the strengths of the people that we had, we decided that it was a better model to go in that direction.
So you do have department heads?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
We have seven department heads. They meet. We have it's called my advisory council. We meet monthly. They do not have a supervisory role of staff, but they do help us move forward with curriculum initiatives, help us with budgetary work, and just general facilitating communication amongst departments.
Currently at Oyster River, you have Durham, Lee, and Madbury?
Durham, Lee, and Madbury, and we have tuition students from Barrington. So we have 64 students from Barrington.
So could you kind of break it out by percentage? I'm just curious.
Yeah, it's roughly 50% of our school is Durham, about a third is Lee, and about whatever's left is Madbury. Actually, wait a minute, hold on, that's residents. So we have 604 residents, and out of that, half is Durham, a third is Lee, and about 1/6 is from Madbury. The Barrington population is a relatively new thing. About 6 years ago, we started accepting a small number of Barrington students, and so that's grown from the first year we had 4, and now it's up to 64. And the trend has been the incoming freshman classes just keep getting bigger. So we have 23 freshmen this year, and based on touring the building, we probably are going to have more.
Can you give me an idea of what your average graduating class size is? I mean, we talk about math class sizes, but what's your average?
Yeah, graduating class last year, we had 152 seniors. This year, we have 156.
So it's about typical, over 100.
You, was it Deerfield that you mentioned that you just recently had a tour group through? You remind me of something that's often said about Newmarket students when they go on field trips, whether it's the bus driver or the receiving instructor on a field trip. They say, why are those Newmarket kids? They're just so polite and pleasant and respectful. And so that sounds like it's a great match. I'm curious, like maybe well, I don't want to pick on Barrington, but it's I'm trying to get my head around if Newmarket kids were to go to Oyster River, you know, how much of the community is the Barrington kids? There's 64 kids, so they're really they're a significant percentage.
They've reached about 10% of our student body is from Barrington right now. Yep.
Can you speak to, you know, are they can't tell them apart from everyone else? You know, maybe it's difficult for you to answer rather
well,
than
I mean,
another student.
I mean, certainly, I have taught in the Oyster River school system since 1985, so I generally, I know, so it's hard for me to answer that question. I know all the Oyster River kids individually, so I know who the Barrington kids are simply because I know who they are, because I didn't know them before they got to high school. That being said, in terms of, you know, is there some character trait that stands out, you know, in terms of, I think as freshmen, certainly, there is a transitional period. We're kind of getting, we do have a community of, the vast majority of our kids are together from kindergarten through 12th grade, and there's a challenge in sort of, you know, breaking in, if you will. What I've noticed about the Barrington kids is they generally come in, they're very gregarious, very open, and they dive right into activities, and before you know it, they're very much a part of the school culture. We do try to do some, you know, orientation type activities and things like that to kind of help deal with some of that transitional issue. By the time they're juniors and seniors, you know, there certainly isn't any significant difference. I mean, just like with any two school systems, there are different academic priorities at different grade levels, and so certainly as the Barrington population becomes larger, if it does, I would be looking at doing more to kind of deal with the curriculum side of things to help make sure that transition was easier for them. I mean, they have a different math program than we do, so kids arrive with different skills. They don't have as writing intensive a program at their middle school, so our writing intensive approach takes some getting used to. But like I say, by the time they're juniors and seniors, I really think they've blended in very well. And if you know, our superintendent did a visit to one of our sociology classes that happened to have 4 Barrington kids in it, and the conversation was not about them being from Barrington, but it was about, like, you know, it was a topic of education and what are the values of education and so forth. And in the course of that, the question came up of well, how are Barrington kids, you know, doing in that adjustment? And the kids in that class said, "Geez, you know, I really am glad we came here. I really like being here. I very much feel a part of this school community." And a couple of them actually wrote testimonials for us to include in the RFP that Barrington asked us to submit this year as we were looking at the tuition agreement for next year. So that's probably a long-winded answer, but I do think that the Barrington kids are welcomed, and so we're a small enough community. I think people do tend to reach out and help with that. I do think one of the advantages in moving in a direction of an exclusive agreement with somebody is that then you can start to have those curriculum conversations that allow you to say, okay, how can we ease the transition curricularly? Because the frustration, if there is one with Barrington, is that they're answering to 3 high schools. And so really, we're the smallest of the 3, so they don't really, not that they don't care, but as a community, they're not going to be willing to look at that curriculum and say, how does it fit with the Oyster River curriculum? They're more focused on Dover because that's where 75% of their kids go.
And they're more interested in using common language with
Correct.
mathematics and through the curriculum, what have you, with the school where, yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
It makes sense, but I can see it's got to be frustrating from your perspective. Emma, I'm most curious if you have any questions.
I did actually.
Fire away.
I know at our school, like technology, we have like a lot of problems, and it's really frustrating after a while. And I wondered if at your school the students have any problems with like the technology or the internet.
Problems as in like getting access to it and having it work?
Yeah, and having it work.
I'd love to tell you we have no problems, but I'd be lying to you. One of the, as I said, one of our priorities for next year is infrastructure upgrades to make our network able to handle the level of use. Because at any given day, every kid, as you know, has a cell phone that can access a wireless network. So you've got, on any given day, you might have 3,000 devices, teachers carrying phones, kids carrying phones, laptops, and so there is a log jam there, and obviously we need to deal with that. Generally speaking, though, when students have needs to use technology, it works. There are a couple of our carts that are a little slow, but we'll get there. Anything else?
I just have I have a million questions, but I think the question I'm going to ask tonight, are there any large budget anticipated needs you guys have or the district may have the next several years related to facilities or anything that may impact an incoming school district?
We're in the process of developing our strategic plan. We're estimating we have about $4 million worth of capital improvements that will have to be made in the next probably 5 to 10 years. If I were going to say where most of that money is going to go, it's going to go in the middle school building because it's the oldest one in the district and has the most structural issues. The high school, fortunately, is the newest building in the district. We just had a major energy audit and upgrade. We're probably one of the few schools in the world where the heat actually works and it holds a temperature of 68 to 72 all the time. So we actually are very fortunate that we've had all that happen at the high school, so I don't anticipate there being any critical needs. I am involved in a group that is trying to move forward on athletic fields improvements. We'd like to have an athletic facility that we can be proud of, turf field, lights, stadiums, so that some of our great high school athletes can have a place to play where they feel good. That's one of the things that we need to focus on. I wouldn't call it a critical need that's going to drive school district budgets, though. Yep.
I just had one last question.
Sure.
At Newmarket, it's a really great community between the younger kids and the older kids. We don't really have a problem being around each other, I guess. Do you see that at your school, the younger kids being able to talk to the older kids and the older kids being there for the younger kids?
Right. Well, one of the things that we have an electives-based system. So as soon as you hit your sophomore year, it's sophomores through seniors in every class. And so the boundaries between who's a sophomore, junior, senior is sort of blurred. Until they get to be seniors, and then they start gloating that they're going to graduate, and of course that's a whole, but it.
Stop gloating.
So generally in the classroom, there's a lot of interacting amongst the different grade levels, and certainly athletically, we're a small enough school that, the freshmen are needed on the varsity, just so there's a blending that takes place there. There are, obviously you're a junior, senior high, so you have even younger kids in your building. We don't have the same kind of relationship with the middle school age kids that you do. We do have a preschool program in our building. Our PEP program is there, so we have 30 to 40 3- and 4-year-olds, and it's always fun to have them there. We have a child development program the kids are in there working with them, and a lot of fun. it's also nice to have little kids around because you always make you smile.
I had just one real kind of quick question about, one of the things I think we take pride in our community, in our district, is the sportsmanship awards that we receive athletically, and I was just curious, has your school received any of those, NHIAA or?
We did receive a sportsmanship, I mean, I've only been here a year and a half, so I can't claim that we won one in the last year and a half, but we did win a sportsmanship award, I believe, 4 years ago, for that purpose.
What division are you? Just
Division
curious.
2.
2, okay, just wondering.
Formerly known as I.
Yes.
Yeah.
Those that are
For those of
following
us that
home.
are so old,
Exactly.
yeah.
I have to remind myself of that frequently.
Okay.
Do your junior high students have the opportunity to go to the high school and take classes?
Yes, we do. We have a number that are taking math classes. We have probably 6 or 7 kids that come over every day and take either accelerated geometry or algebra 2, depending on where they're at. And then we have a small number that are taking advanced world language offerings because they've gotten to that point. So probably 8, 9 kids total are coming up to do that.
All right. Well, thanks so much.
Thank you.
It's
fun.
I heard a lot of similarities in RTI and curriculum mapping and, pushing to get those things happening. And it's wonderful to hear, all other things aside, to hear that what we're talking about is common language with our
Absolutely.
neighbors. And
Yeah.
it seems like we have a lot in common.
I think so too. I think it could be a very positive relationship if that's where things go. But I know you got a lot of things to sort through before we reach the point of having that conversation. But I wish you luck in making that decision.
Thank you.
Well, thanks for helping us.
Thank
with
you very
that.
much.
Have a wonderful day.
You too.
You too. Okay.
Right, where is my agenda? Thank you. Okay, yes, but of course, it's that time of year where our school district moderator, Bob Madej, comes and reminds us of how things go at the town meeting. So, Bob, please, welcome.
All right, well, thanks for having me tonight. Kind of excited about this year. It's going to be different than last year, than previous years. So we're going to be having the deliberative session on a Saturday. So usually we have it on a Tuesday night in the gymnasium, but this time, in the effort to combine the town activities, the town budget with the school, so that town members get a big picture all at once. We decided to try to do it on a Saturday. It's not unheard of. There are other towns that do it on a Saturday. And this is going to be our first step at it. If it doesn't work out, then we'll change it. If we get feedback that it doesn't, we'll certainly entertain that. But I think it's a good first step at combining the two budgets and warrant activities so that people get a big picture all at once. Okay? So we're going to start out on Saturday with the town meeting going first, starting at 9 o'clock. And
10 o'clock, actually.
10 o'clock, they're going
10
to move it to
o'clock.
10?
Yes,
We-
I
we-
had initially heard 10.
We were
9
surprised.
as well,
We were
but
surprised
no,
too.
Okay,
time is
10.
10.
okay, well, so be it. So they're going to start at 10. And,
We'll see what the posting says.
Yeah.
right?
and in actuality, the way I talked about it with the town moderator, and Cliff, you were there, that meeting will go as long as it needs to go. They'll take the time that they need to. Our best intent is to have a lunchtime break between meetings. And then the school district meeting will start at 1 o'clock. So if the town meeting goes over, we can still start our meeting later. We can start our meeting at 2, but we can't start our meeting any earlier than the posted time, which will be 1 p.m. on Saturday. So hopefully things will work out, and the town meeting will adjourn somewhere around noon. We'll have a lunchtime break, and then we'll be back. From that point, our meeting will just be a normal deliberative session. We can run it just like we always have. So we'll start out with saluting the flag. We can have the band members there if we want to, if you guys want to arrange that. We can have a singer for the national anthem. I don't know if you have any volunteers or wishes or desires in that area.
Don't know, but we'll find out.
Okay.
Get back to you on those things.
Good. And from there, I guess it will be the normal organizational activities. We'll have an area set aside for visitors, and then the regular townspeople. We're going to try to have chairs out front for people who wish to sit in chairs as opposed to the bleachers, and we'll take it from there. So we had you guys had the public session just earlier this week, and that went really well, I think. You guys were in and out of there. You didn't get a lot of questions. As we know, only a small percentage of the townspeople attend the public session anyway. But that went well. And your warrant articles are very well written. They're clear, and Dr. Hayes presented them very well. And the information, the handouts, I assume you'll have the same handouts for the deliberative session that you did for the public session.
I will. They'll be slightly different because we'll be putting in the votes taken by the budget committee, and maybe a little cleaning up some other pieces, but by and large the same.
Yeah, so it was a great package of information. It said it all, and I think you know it said it all because you didn't get any questions. It was presented well. So with that, I don't know what you're thinking of in ways of presenting the warrant articles at the meeting. Sometimes individuals present the individual warrant articles, or will you have Dr. Hayes represent you and give a spiel again?
Well, you did such a good
Last
job.
year, yes, yeah. No, I'm comfortable doing it. Last year I did do it, so if that's what you like, that's fine.
And certainly the rest of us will be there to
Chime in.
to add
absolutely.
color commentary or answer questions.
Okay, and I think that would work out well. It will go well. We'll discuss each warrant article in turn, and Dr. Hayes will point it out on the paperwork again. You know, front, back, second page, first page, whatever, where we are to present that information. So, you know, I'll open the meeting up and I'll introduce everybody, and we'll just go right there into the warrant articles and go successively right through it. Do you guys have any questions or concerns for me?
Are we going to make sure, that people come down to the microphone and ask questions?
Yes, well, we're going to have to do that.
I know that's not always easy, but it's really important.
Right. You know, everybody there should be in the mood of things from the morning meeting, and it should transition. And I know Clay will do the same thing. Okay. It's very important that the individuals come down to the microphone to talk, you know, in order to get onto the video and to have their voice projected to the rest of the audience so they can hear their questions.
Yeah.
And as you know, I try to repeat the questions if I see the individual isn't talking into the microphone or what have you, because I know it's a participation for the whole community, and they need to hear what's going on if there's something relevant that is to be discussed. So I'm not going to, you know, put each warrant article on the floor for a motion. I'm not going to ask for a motion to put it onto the floor. We're just going to go consecutively through them. And in the past, people just come up to the microphone and talk. And I'll try to move things right along. And if I see that there's not a lot of people coming up to the microphone, I'll make my intentions of closing the warrant article and moving on to try to get people to move a little faster. And we'll see if we can't get through it. You know, every year is another year of experience for me. I get to chalk up what happened last year to, how I'm going to do things this year, and it all goes forward from there. So we do the best we can.
One of the other things I've been thinking about and trying to get my mind around both of these meetings happening is, typically when there's one meeting, you come in and you have to register, you have to check in with the clerks or whatever. So hopefully there'll be this break, right? The town meeting will stop, but I was thinking, if it goes further or longer or whatever, I imagine there's going to be people coming in for the other part of the meeting. And is there any thought given to that happening at the same time that this other meeting might be going on?
Well, we're trying to set the room up so that the keepers of the checklist can be up front by the door, and as people come in, they'll register at the door on their way in.
Okay.
They'll
just
be
have
there
to-
through the meeting, I guess, and for other people that keep coming in.
If there's a lunch break and people disperse to eat and then come back, does everybody have to re-register?
Is a good question.
Technically, yes.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Because it's
Technically,
another
yes.
meeting. I mean,
Yes.
I thought.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, they will have to re-register.
Want to be sure,
Be-
that,
because
people out there should know that. you
Because
know.
it's a separate meeting.
Right.
And it's
Mhm.
attendance at a separate meeting. In the same day, but it's a separate meeting.
Right.
What about people that might, is everyone going to be required to leave at the break and come back? Or what if people want to stay?
Or re-register anyway? Yeah, that's a very good question, and I'll have to find that out. We'll certainly work that out, and I'll discuss that with Clay, because he's holding the
Yeah.
first meeting, and we'll see.
Because there's also the issues of the yes, no. Last year, we got things with little dots on it. If there was what was that, a ballot?
Secret
A secret ballot?
Valentine?
Remember?
Yeah.
I know we don't-
Typically, we don't hand that out unless it's called for. So the way that would progress, and this is kind of where things got mixed up a little bit last year, is that a silent vote would have to be requested of me on a change. So it's going to have to progress that somebody makes a dollar change in a warrant article, and then somebody will say, well, I want to hold a silent vote on that. So at that point, then we'll have to hand out the paperwork. People have to come through and register. It's not a pleasant experience.
No.
Everybody has to go through the checklist and pick up their paperwork, and then typically they file right past the keepers of the checklist to the ballot box and cast their vote and then return. So,
Okay.
but most of the warrant articles, there wouldn't be a need for a silent vote, and unless somebody really, anybody could request it. Well, five individuals can request it.
I think we need to be prepared for anything.
Yeah, and that's the point, we do. And I'll talk to Penny, and she'll typically be prepared for a couple of silent votes. She'll have paperwork ready for that.
Okay.
And we'll see how it goes. But they can change some of the language of the warrant articles. They can modify the dollar amounts up or down. See where it goes.
Will you have speaking of paperwork earlier, I'm recalling that you had rules of the meeting that are you planning on handing those out?
Robert.
Yes, I think I'll do that again. I typically do that. I have moderator rules. We don't follow Robert's rules in a strict manner. I try to just move the meeting along, and there are some rules that I've made out, and they typically cover one page, and I'll make a number of copies, and Penny makes a number of copies, and we'll have them passed out. Yeah.
I just had a comment, something that I appreciated last year, Bob, that you did, because last year was a pretty emotional deliberative session, I think. and hopefully it won't be as emotional this time, but I thought you did a good job of redirecting people that were expressing differences of opinions in an inappropriate way to the board by making direct comments to a board member or the superintendent, you know, like name calling liar, for example. And I thought you did a really good job of redirecting that. I mean, I think the purpose is discussion, is community discussion, but in an appropriate, respectful way. So I just want to say thank you, and I know that you'll do that again for us.
Well, thanks. It's a difficult thing, and I do ask that comments be directed to myself, and then I'll try to get answers from other directions if as necessary. Some people do come with an agenda on their own shoulders once they come in, and it can be difficult, but we try our best to get through it. I try to keep it in a civil manner. You're right. It is a meeting, and it's a public meeting. It's there for everybody, and the majority of the people are there to come in and do business and get it done. And we try to move it along and make it happen that way.
All right, I'm hearing silence, so.
Yeah,
guess we're out
I
of
think that's
questions.
fine. If you guys don't have anything more for me, then the next time I'll see you, maybe Dr. Hayes and I will be in touch a little bit if things change. You don't have any petitioned warrant articles that have come to you, right? So it's still the same that you've presented so far. I think they can still be petitioned up to about a week before the deliberative session or so. So there's a potential there, but.
I thought it was January 8th.
I thought it was January 8th.
January 8th.
January 8th, so it's closed?
Different for, I think it's different for the town, but, I think.
Oh, good.
But for us, we
Good,
don't.
so that's done.
That's what we were told.
Yeah, great.
Yes.
And so if there's anything that you can think of that you haven't thought of yet, leave it with Dr. Hayes. He has my email, and we're in touch, and it works out well.
Great.
All right,
Okay?
thanks very much.
Thank you, Bob.
you. Right, good night.
You know.
Good night. Okay. All right. So next on the program is assistant principal job description and evaluation form. This is another in a long series of job descriptions and evaluations that are closely
Yeah.
paired with it.
I think this is the first one you've seen this year, but I've got a few more that are in the pipeline, so hopefully you'll see a few more in the next few meetings. Assistant principal was really important to us. Both principals worked with both of their assistant principals after a framework that I had put together, and then they made reactions to it and changes, and so I think it fits the description adequately for both schools. And then it does give us, I see it didn't print properly, but it does give us an evaluation instrument as well, which is why you approve all job descriptions and evaluation instruments. So I brought it for your approval. And if you can do that tonight, that'd be great. And if not, if you still have questions or things you want to read through, then you can obviously put it off till the next meeting.
Okay. Before we move along, I just want to outline for folks that might be watching, the categories of performance include leadership, curriculum and instruction, management and operations, communications and community relations, ethical and reflective leadership, and professional responsibilities, totaling 45 individual things to do or concepts to be mindful of in every moment of every day. So this is not a job for the faint of heart or giving short service to the responsibility of the assistant principal. So with that, if anyone would like to make a motion or...
I have a question.
Sure.
Do you use are you using the Danielson model for evaluation for this position as
Assistants,
well?
I don't think we use this as I'm not sure Danielson speaks to assistant principal.
Is there an administrative model of evaluation?
Not that I've.
I'm sure there is. The way that we were trained, so you didn't have it as part of the package we were trained.
I'm just wondering, might we want to consider the same for, what I'm looking for?
Rubrics?
Performance ratings, overall
Yeah,
performance ratings.
yeah. Just something, just for consistency's sake.
Yeah.
Throughout all positions. Just put that out there.
I would be
Yeah, it's-
for that.
It's not the same as though for teachers, because in Danielson, all of those were really attached to a rubric that
Right,
one could
right,
point to say.
right.
I mean, but I get your point. I understand your point, but
What can you remind me and maybe others who aren't remembering what those four?
they were unsatisfactory, basic, proficient, and distinguished. Now, I will tell you, the state had, for a good number of months, and I'm not sure being beyond, certainly beyond this year, has had an evaluation task force that has been looking at developing a new model for evaluation. They're still not ready. They're still in the development phase, but they based a lot of what they did on Danielson. They don't use the same four words that we use, but they have the identical kind of breakdown of performance levels.
Is that a teacher model or an administrative
That's
model?
teacher. But I thought, and I don't know if you've seen anything, Chris, I thought that there was also an administrator piece. I haven't really seen much about the administrative piece, though. So maybe the task force hasn't gotten to that just yet. But I believe they were developing one for administrators, building level administrators. If you want me to look into that more, we can bring this back and I'll show you what it means. But
I actually was thinking along the same lines before you even mentioned it, because I was looking at the three that were here, and I know that they aren't, they're administrators and they're not teachers, but it does kind of make sense to kind of try and keep everything consistent. If there are rubrics out there, I mean, it makes sense that there would be some kind of model or something. I mean, I can't imagine.
I've not seen one.
Yeah, I
Honest
don't.
with you. I've not seen one. It's always focused on teaching, and then
Okay.
they break off from teaching a little bit. Danielson deals with things like library media specialist, some other parts that are part of the educational program, not the administrative piece. But I'll do some research and get back to you.
I really like the concept of using this common language and the same number of categories, particularly for individuals who are responsible for the observations and part of the building the summative evaluation, because
They'll be measured.
they're using to some extent the same kind of yardstick that they're using in the evaluations that they do.
And then, so we have all of the individual ratings, and, maybe we should have an overall as well,
At the bottom.
like.
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, if you look at the evaluations, we've got three of them really right here. We just don't have this.
I think if you just add a distinguished
We just don't have.
Yeah.
column
It's true.
and then rename the other
Distinguished.
ones.
Yeah, the
I
other ones
think
are pretty much-
you-
See if I wrote it in this one here. Yeah, see, in this one here, if you go to the part where it says rating scale, and I do this with my administrators, Chris knows this very well. In the proficient column, if somebody's proficient, you just put a check. If somebody's, excels, then, you don't see it?
I don't have that page.
Yeah.
It's
Keep
the-
going, it's the last page.
Oh, I didn't print
Got
that
it.
page. I'll look over
Ah.
here. Thank you.
If you read under proficient, it says, that if I check there, it indicates the employee's performance meets expectations for performance in this position requirement. A plus sign indicates exceptional performance. So that, like, when I give these evaluations like this to other administrators, I'll put a check in the appropriate column. But if they're really exceeding expectations, I put a check plus. So I didn't create another fourth column, but that's how I
Captured
show
the
it.
same thing.
So in effect, I've really got that the same here. I just don't have an overall
Yeah.
rating. If you
I
see,
don't
if you
think
see
you
what I
want to
mean.
get bogged down with these type of evaluations. I think you keep them as simple as possible.
This,
You can get you're going to get overwhelmed with stuff.
I find this very easy this format very easy to work with. I understand. Remember, this is only a summative, it's like an end of year, and it's very easy to read the element of the job description, and typically, like I do with other administrators, I give them this first, and I say, give me a self-evaluation, and so I have their own assessment, and then I have their narrative as where their highlights or glows and grows or whatever you call them for the year, and so then I have a basis on which then I put my own in, and so the check marks go pretty quickly and feel comfortable, and then with as Cliff mentioned the different categories, then you can really focus in on narrative just specific to those. So I like it.
It's like a year-long working evaluation.
Right. You're right. But you're right. You don't want it to be overwhelming. I mean, there's a lot of other things to be doing, but it's something you want to give them good constructive feedback.
Yes.
I imagine, so am I to say that we didn't have a job description for an assistant principal before now? Is that what
You
this-
had a very outdated one.
Okay.
That it really didn't spell it out anywhere near the detail of this.
And
so
this
I
is
don't
more
think-
in line with the current ones that we have for everyone else, so it makes sense to,
Right.
was Mr. Mazzoni included in the
Yes,
development of this? Yeah. Cool.
I'm comfortable with this, but I might want to consider with this singular change of adding another column, which is where your check pluses would land.
Yeah.
And renaming them
Doing it anyway.
and using common language, but in the interest of moving along, and because this will be a big step, and I don't want to get to May, June, and be at the point of going, gee whiz, we don't have an evaluation model that we want to use at the end of the school year because we're waiting for someone else to finish something else.
Right.
So. Doesn't have to be the last rev, I guess, from my perspective, but
Yeah.
that's just my 2 cents.
No, it doesn't have to be the last rev. I mean, just, you've heard our comments, so,
Okay.
I have no problem
I'll create that.
moving on.
Okay.
Why is there a difference in days between the junior high assistant and the elementary assistant? It's just 5 days, it's minor, but.
My experience, and certainly the experience here, is that the high school has a lot more
Prep stuff.
issues to deal with over summertime than an elementary school. So a principal can handle an elementary school of this size, whereas junior, senior high, you need more hands to deal with it.
And might that also include, like, requirements that currently are on the assistant principal, like managing 504s?
They both manage the 504s.
They both buildings?
Yes, they both do that, right.
Well, I'll make a motion to approve the assistant principal job description and evaluation forms as presented.
I'll second that.
Is that going to be without the construction of the column, or you want to include that?
Yeah, we'll accept it as it is, and then,
Okay.
we've given him some
Expect me
feedback,
to-
and they can maybe
Right.
Bring it
adjust
back and
if
just show
you
us.
feel like it makes sense.
Any other thoughts on that? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Okay, correspondence?
None this evening?
Okay, and I'm really looking forward to the business department update regarding the transition to the new accounting software.
Yes.
You're smiling.
It's all good news, yes.
Mm.
For those of you who don't know, we're, I'll say we're almost through the complete transition from BMSI to Tyler Encode, which is our accounting software system for those of you at home watching this. It's a major undertaking, especially at year end, and I mean calendar year end, with getting ready to send out, W-2s and everything. So we've definitely are putting in a lot of extra hours, and that credit would definitely go to my staff, not myself, which would be Michelle and Teresa Marvin. It's been a phenomenal experience to be on to a new system, and we are the beta site, if you didn't know that. So it's a learning process as well for us and for Tyler to figure out what the little bugs are in the system and work them out, so it's been great. I hope to get our first expenditure report out to you for February 7th. So you might not have it in hand, you know, in your packets when they're sent to you. It might be a handout that night because we're really pushing. We're trying to get the trial balances in tomorrow to complete that and then start running the reports. And if everything runs smoothly, February 7th is the day you'll see some new reporting. So it's very exciting. So I thank you to my staff for a great job.
So when do we get to cut that old software loose? And
Well, that's a great question. It's really going to depend how much data we're going to be able to pull over from that software. Most of it's going to be data entry on our part because the two software systems cannot communicate with each other. I did seek if there was an option for it, and of course there is, but it's a hefty price tag that I could not see recommending it to you. So we're going to run both systems parallel and create some history into the new system as soon as we can get through some of the transitions that we have with year-end and the budget process and whatnot.
so you'll end up with putting in like yearly line item totals.
Correct. Like we'll
So
pull
that
over this current year budget, the actuals, we'll pull it into the new system. You know, well, I shouldn't say this year's because the trial balances will have that, but let's say the 11-12 school year. We can create that through data entries.
So when we go into the budgeting phase, 10 months or something from now, we'll have historical data all within the new software
That's
going
our
back
goal.
to as far as we really
That's
need
our
to.
goal, and I'll keep updating you on that and seeing how it's a work in process. So, like I said, it's a brand new system. We're the beta site, so I have to see. I haven't seen those modules for the budget yet. We haven't even touched upon it yet, so I don't know what that looks like. So, but that is definitely our goal: is to have at least 3-year history in the new system for the budget next year.
Great. Good stuff. Any questions for Christine?
Thanks for spearheading it.
Well, can't thank my staff enough. So.
Right. It's been a little while, I think, but we got some first reads on policies tonight.
We do. We do.
Been busy.
The several of them are reviews that turn into slight revisions. It's the first 3 here. Curriculum development, you can see some changes there in terms of giving more direct responsibility to the Director of Curriculum Instruction, and that reflects exactly what we do. Other than that, the policy stands to still reflect what we do and what the law asks of us. The next 2 are identical. I always have a hard time with that, but for whatever reason, we're certainly recommended that we put policies in different parts of the policy manual in case people are looking in that part only, I guess. But they're identical policies dealing with first aid and emergency medical care. And so I had the school nurses review these, and I also checked in terms of any changes in state law and so forth. And so you do see some changes there. There's a reference in our current policy to school physician. We really don't have a school physician. We do a much better job now. We have people who are trained in CPR and first aid, and the law allows certain things by those trained staff members. So the policy is a bit more explicit, but in general, the substance has not changed. And then lastly is a new policy dealing with availability and distribution of healthy foods. It's required by law, and I also provided for you, because I obviously had Linda Hopi review it, and Linda reviewed it and said the language is fine, and then she gave you some comments as to where she is in terms of meeting those, what we do now to meet those expectations, and she just does a terrific job, so we're in good shape in complying with the law.
Anyone have any comments or thoughts on these at this first read point? I have one.
Yep.
It's kind of a, maybe it's a nitpicky one.
Okay.
The healthy to me, and I think a most proper definition means free of disease, where healthful might be a better choice of words for, in the title, availability and distribution of healthful foods. You don't.
We're not going to give them free of diseased
we
food.
right.
That's a good point.
We want to give, the food we serve is to be nourishing, is the point, but we don't want to be serving healthy beef because that connotes something different. It's, call me a grammarian or anything worse. But I think a more proper word there is healthful than healthy.
Well,
And you
I'm with
can
you.
entertain me.
I certainly,
I'm with you. I
I'm
think
going to
that's
form a
good.
committee, and we'll get that solved.
The ad hoc board policy
Yeah.
Healthy or
grammar.
healthful committee.
Okay, thanks for
I
indulging
will
me.
look into it. I mean, certainly this language came out of New Hampshire School Boards Association, and they said healthy. I didn't
They
make it
don't
up.
have grammarians on their
They don't have a
staff.
grammarian either. But it could have been embedded in the law. But you got my curiosity now.
Yeah.
Okay. I did a little, it wasn't just whimsy, I did a little looking on the internet, but you know what you get on the internet.
Oh,
so
yes.
Right.
You can find any opinion that you want there. So I found several references in
That
support
support
of
you.
mine. Yeah, and then I stopped.
All right, all right.
Anyway,
I'm
I'll
not going to
take
push
no more
back
time.
anymore.
Oh, God.
This is the 9 o'clock humor
Yes.
moment, I guess.
Okay.
Moving along then to resignations or other leave requests.
Right, well, the first one is a request to rescind her intent to retire. This is Helen Hoffman, special ed teacher, just a terrific teacher for us, and so, she filed her intent to retire, I can't remember when, but I think it was within the last year, and then came back right after the vacation, and obviously had a change of heart, and so I'm happy she'd be staying with us, and I think we all are, so I would want your approval of that. And then we have three.
Well, let's do this.
Yeah, let's do this.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
So I would like to make a motion to accept Helen Hoffman's, what's the word? Rescindation?
Request to
Rescission.
To rescission, okay.
Rescission.
Cliff, I don't have that.
Come on, grammar guy.
Request to rescind, I think, is.
Her request to rescind
Right.
her intent to retire at the end of 2014 school year. Did we get that? Yeah. Okay.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? I have a question. So in the process, if one requests an intent to retire, there's options for how they get funded with any retirement monies. We haven't started
None of that
any.
took place.
None of that has started, so we're completely before any of those dates.
If it had, it would be binding.
How would be binding?
Right.
Okay. Bless her heart, I'm glad she's staying.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a good soul. Any other comments? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the motion carries. On to the next.
Well, I will group them. They all have the same situation. They are 3 maternity leaves.
Do we need to
And-
investigate the water in
I-
that school? I mean,
I don't drink it.
yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No. But it is all at the junior, senior high. There could be a problem, but, it's, but two of them actually are dealing with grade 7 students, but they're all looking for maternity leaves of varying lengths, as you can read. And so it would require your approval of those leaves.
Okay, I'll make a motion to, accept Jennifer Boston's request for maternity leave?
Second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Make another motion to accept Kristen Abel's request for maternity leave.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion again carries 5-0.
And we'll round it out by making a motion to accept Sarah Denham's request for maternity leave.
I'll second that.
Discussion?
Wish them all well.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, motion carries unanimously again. Okay, and we have a nomination.
You do. It's a little bit different than usual, because it still is a long-term substitute situation, but we have a special ed teacher, Christine Colstring, who joined us for the beginning of the year to deal with one long-term sub situation, and then since then has moved over to another. And she's just, as you can read through Chris Andruski's letter, just doing an outstanding job for us, to become a real member of the school community, doing things outside of the normal school day, and just it seems deserving of his request, which really, the essence of the request is to appoint her as a long-term sub for the remainder of the year, and that would then put her in a different pay status. Long-term subs typically stay at bachelor's step 1, and she's got her master's degree and is performing extremely well. So it's an exceptional kind of circumstance that he's requested, and that I've obviously supported and brought it forward to you.
Sounds like a good use of staff and.
Yeah.
She's a teacher for the remainder of the year, correct?
For the remainder of the year, yeah, definitely, because that medical leave is definite for the remainder of the year. Is just doing an outstanding job for us.
And because it's for the remainder of the year, that bumps her up in the pay, is that the?
That's what we would want, yes.
So basically, the attempt is to make her pay more commensurate with
Right.
What she's
Right.
doing.
what she's doing for us.
Because the one that she originally was hired for was not expected to be year-long.
She's, the technicality is what's happening is she's a long-term sub, which is being paid at the bachelor's step 1 per diem, and we are seeking to make her an employee, which would be covered under the collective bargaining agreement for the remainder of the year, which puts her at her experience level, which I believe is a master's,
Yes.
step 1 now.
Right.
So, which means she would then be eligible for benefits that pertain to the contract for the remainder of the year.
Will this set a precedent for us in the
Yeah,
future
that's my
for
concern.
situations? I mean, I'm sure she's wonderful, I have nothing
Yeah.
against wonderful employees, but it just seems odd. quite honestly.
Typically, if it...
It's a standard practice in
is?
school districts. It is.
And typically, think if we had somebody who's going to be out for the year,
Yeah,
we'd hire a teacher.
Like
Yeah.
you
A regular
have,
You
Adult
wouldn't, you
teacher.
wouldn't say, come in, you're going to do it at Bachelor's 1. You would. And so we hired her initially at
Right, yeah.
Bachelor's 1 on something that was extended,
But the
but
circumstances changed.
not to year-long. And now it's changed, and she's really been with us the entire year.
okay.
And I think that's the
That's the
rationale.
difference. Okay.
Yeah.
well, and I'll also add to that, the difference here is that the employee who she's replacing, the intent is that she's not going to be able to come back during the school year. So there's a
Right.
difference.
Yep.
Usually long-term subs is that you know that they're going to come back at some point in the school year. But in this case, it's not. And it's a huge undertaking to be a long-term sub as is and to be compensated
Right.
at a per diem, because they are responsible for all of the, the homeworks and the grading and everything, just like a normal teacher. So we really want to reward her, and I fully support that because she's doing a phenomenal job. So, and this is a typical practice in other districts as well.
And long-term subs need to be certified, correct?
Oh, yes. Right.
Absolutely.
She is.
Well, I'll make a motion to approve the appointment of Christine Colstring as the special ed teacher, moving for the remainder of the school year.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
Motion carries 5-0. Okay, we have a manifest.
We do. I would like to make a motion to accept the total of all manifests in the amount of $580,325.53.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries 5-0. On to calendar. Mules Madness tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Always a
So-
fun night.
Is it 7 PM? Is like the game happens and then?
Mules Madness is after.
Okay, but you come to the game and just kind of hang out and, okay.
The varsity team usually like does the games with like people that win the tickets.
At the end, yeah.
Yeah.
So come to the game, watch the game, and visualize making that half-court shot.
Yes.
There'll be what, like 50/50s and all sorts of raffles
Yeah,
and
I
stuff
assume,
going on, yeah.
All
It's
right.
fun.
Okay, you won't catch me at the Black Light Dance on the 26th. Sorry to disappoint some, probably not.
I have a question. The 22nd, you're going to the Oyster River meeting,
Yes.
but then there's still this budget committee meeting that's going to happen that night.
And then we have a meeting posted for after that.
Oh, that's, okay, because I was like, when are we going, because if they make, we have to make changes, so we're going to meet right after the budget committee meeting.
If they make changes.
I'm sorry, if they make changes.
If they don't, and I hope they don't, then when we meet, the only real action in the meeting will be to actually sign the final warrant. I'll have to go to the computer, put in their votes, hopefully not have to make any changes, but if I have to change anything, I change it.
Yeah.
And then bring it back down. If there were a change, you'd have to re-vote that article, and then I think you would.
Yeah.
Same
Yeah.
thing with the MS-27.
Right. And then we'd have you sign it.
That's
So-
on the 22nd.
Yeah,
Yes.
Yes,
I may not be there.
I know.
I know.
I arranged with Chris Williams, and hopefully you can do it, the same that we did with Meg. That over the phone. You know, signing, have Penny probably bring it to your house or something.
I can let you know
and you sign it.
on that, on Monday anyway.
Or even
If you're gonna be
midday
able
on
to do it.
Tuesday.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, yeah,
We would still
because the
have-
meeting's gonna be in the auditorium, but I spoke with Chris Williams about it. And, yeah, the meeting will be in the auditorium, not up here.
So the budget committee will meet down there, and we'll still meet down there?
Yes, because it's a planning board meeting up
Yeah,
here.
directly following the budget meeting, we need to stay down there.
Yeah.
And the budget committee meeting starts, is it 7, or have they been meeting at 6?
6:30.
I think it's
6:30.
7.
I believe that one's at
But this-
7.
Oh, yeah,
Yes.
you know what,
That
you're
one's
right.
at 7. And so ours at Oyster River is at 6. So my hope is that by the time Oyster River's over, we head back here and we'll still be in good shape, so.
Because the town is going first, I believe.
Yeah, that's true.
Town still has a little bit
So-
left, and then
Yeah.
we'll hit
Okay.
ours.
So we'll just all meet up together down there?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
But we need to pick a time to post that.
Right.
Just as Bob and Day was saying, you can start late, but you can't start early. So,
Oh,
Penny's already posted it. I'm not sure how she handled it, but we've
Okay.
done this before, and so she posted it the way she did before,
Okay.
whatever that means.
all right. Any other items for the, of note for the calendar?
Well, I'm just following up on this last day to post the warrant. So if we approve the warrant that night, which we'll have to do,
We're going to be posting it the next day.
it'll be the, and
That's
that,
the
what is
plan.
it, 7, is it business days or days?
Actually,
It's not.
and I'm going to say,
Not in-
I get real nervous about this, but
I'm
we
sorry.
have asked and asked and asked, and the answer is, we have until the 28th to post it. We're not bound because of SB2 by 7 days.
Okay.
Or 14 days or whatever.
You just have a final date for
We
posting?
just have the final date, but just for us to be comfortable, as soon as you sign it that night, then the very next day, we're going to post it, so.
And it will be posted at the high school?
Just about everywhere.
Everywhere we can.
Telephone poles. We're not going to miss it this time. No, it'll be at, certainly at the high school place of voting, you know.
Town hall, yeah.
Library
Thank
and
you.
some other
My
place.
bathroom
close to-
mirror.
Yeah. Okay.
And that's the other thing, really, just to mention regarding the calendar is February 2, Groundhog Day, is the deliberative session for, as discussed earlier, 10 a.m. town and 1 p.m. we begin. And I have every expectation that we'll all be present for the town's deliberative session piece, and that the town council will reciprocate and be present for the school district meeting.
Does anyone have any update on daycare arrangements for that day for me?
Not yet.
I heard the National Honor Society is helping out. I know that we have a lot of kids that are volunteering to do
Well,
something for that.
That was the hope.
Oh, God.
We're running into problems because that day is Penguin Plunge,
Oh.
and so many kids participate in that.
Mm-hmm.
And they're the same
The same kids.
kids you
Yeah.
just talked about, and so, you know.
Kids are having to choose between the things.
Kids that are involved, you know. So Chris and I kicked around some of their ideas the other day, and he's still going to look at them.
Has he reached out to like the PTAs and to find, because some of
We
those,
haven't done that yet.
they might have good ideas about other, I mean, because I know that there were even, I can't remember, there were some other families or parents or that said that they would be willing to, a while ago, to, even at the rec center, have something happen, so.
Well, the idea we talked about the other day is because sometimes you, and I know I had said, you know, do it for free, but you might put a nominal charge on there, and you might get an organization at the school to do it as a fundraiser.
Right.
You know? So Chris was exploring that idea with some groups that might not be high participation in
In
Penguin
plunging.
Plunge. Yes, so that's where we left it. We talked about it a day or two ago.
Okay.
The other thing, speaking of fundraising, some group ought to set something up for 12 o'clock to sell lunches or something.
No, he's been talking with people about that. I'm not sure what's happening, but, yeah.
Because even like the
Good
Booster
fundraiser.
Club has, typically they set up like at Mule's Madness, right? And they sell pizza and they sell, you know, I mean,
Right,
even that
right,
would be,
Right,
you know, worth it for some of
Right.
these communities.
Project
Right.
graduation.
Yeah.
right, yeah, I suggested that to him, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll see.
Are you plunging?
No, I have to work that morning, actually. I
Oh.
I work with my dance studio, so they need me that Saturday morning, or else I would definitely be plunging again.
Fun.
It was so much fun.
So, but Linda, you did mention project graduation, and speaking of calendars, I have been remiss and did not bring any project graduation calendars to sell this evening, but I will have them next week on Tuesday.
How much are they?
$10. There's drawings every day of the month. You can win more than once. It's really a great fundraiser and good stuff. What's that?
He's never won.
Never won.
I haven't either, but.
Emma hooked me up, didn't you, Emma?
You do.
Okay.
You do.
And Peter Carlson.
All right. Any other business this evening?
Nope,
No non-public or nothing?
no non-public.
Anyone care to make a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.